head on a swivel. Ah! Shit, he's gone! Move!
We are talking She Walks the Woods, and this is directed by Jason Crockett and Brian McCulley, and is a 2019 creature feature movie. And let's talk about the plot, shall we? It focuses on a group of 3 survivalists, kind of, who do some type of YouTube channel or pod show. And they're kind of doing a new episode, and they're kind of meeting this girl who wants to come along with them, who one of this group knows. So now the 4 of them going up to this kind of woodland area where the girl has a kind of well, the girl's family has some type of cabin in the woods. And they want to go there trying to get footage of various kind of wildlife, hunting, things like that. However, little do they know, there seems to be something else in this forestry area, something that doesn't like humans. Now, what'll happen, you'll have to watch the movie and find out. So, let us talk what works with this movie. So, this is a very, very typical found footage film, and I'm going to come on to that again in a little bit. But what can we say that's positive about that? Well, if you like a standard found footage formula, then you may like this, because this is certainly that. It follows a very tried and tested template. The bulk of the film is kind of like footage where you're just getting to know, the characters that are involved. We see what they're up to, we see the shenanigans, we see the relationships between obviously these characters, and then kind of essentially the last 15 to 20 minutes or so is where any type of horror kind of elements come into it. So it does follow, if you like that kind of standard template, then, you're not going to go wrong with this, because that's kind of what it all is. In regards to kind of technical elements, again, it's very, very typical of a found footage movie. It's certainly, you can kind of see for the most part what's kind of going on, the actual kind of things like the audio is pretty good. We can hear everyone speaking, and I will say there is actually some kind of decent audio effects in regard to this kind of unidentified creature kind of howling in the woods, which they put down to a mountain lion initially, which we all know that it isn't. We do actually have an kind of a prologue at the beginning of the movie featuring kind of different kind of group of people, and that's it's a pretty good setup, I have to say. You don't really see anything, but we get the idea that there's something dangerous and powerful kind of lurking in the woods. And that last kind of 15 minutes or so, that's when you'll see the bulk of the thing. And we do get a reasonable look at this kind of this creature, and they have tried to go for some kind of unique design. To be fair to them, it's hard to really kind of put a point on what it actually is, outside of it's some type of woodland kind of creature / kind of spirit, really. You get tons of screen time with it. We only get a few kind of, ultimately probably less than sort of 20 seconds of it on screen, but it's there. You get a couple of okay looks. At least you can't go home and say you never saw anything, because it's on screen fully, at least for a few seconds here and there. All the characters are relatively kind of well defined, I would say. So you're not ever confused who's who, which I suppose is something to sort of say. And that's kind of it. So it's kind of really very much a typical found footage movie. And that's kind of, now let's transition to maybe what doesn't work, because I feel, staying on that, this has 5 credited writers. And I can't honestly say how this movie has so much writing credit, because it is a definition of a paint by numbers kind of found footage movie. Now, this movie, I would say, is not really bad in any sense, but it's so generic. It is so vanilla, so what you've ever seen before, that it really is just like, how has 5 people sat down and think, yeah, let's do this. That sounds like a really good idea. Something that people haven't seen before. Because it's just like the bulk of it. It's like the just the most standard kind of found footage style movie you've ever seen. Can I go any deeper than that and tell you anything other than that, which kind of is negative? Yes, I can. Let's just go for a few other bits. These guys are meant to be survivalists, yet we see them complain about getting bugs on them. We've seen them struggle to kind of put a tent up. And I'm thinking, are these meant to be survivalists? Or enthusiasts at the very least? Because they don't really seem like that. I mean, we see them put up a trap to catch a rabbit. And they even joke that they have had to kind of like set it up like 15 times or something like that because they've not got it right. So it's like the setup should have been, these are not survivalist enthusiasts. These are amateurs who want to have a go at doing this kind of survivalist. That would have been a much better synopsis about doing a kind of like some type of web show. They shouldn't be a pre-established kind of like people, because we see that they have done this sort of thing before. There's like a little kind of clips of all these different things that they've done. So we're meant to believe that these guys are experienced in the kind of the outdoors, yet we really don't see anything to kind of suggest that when the actual movie is here. It should have been, and again, we have 5 writers, don't forget, but this is blindingly obvious that this is a kind of an oversight, really. We should have had, these are not professionals, these are amateurs who want to have a go at this and basically get themselves in trouble. That is a lot more kind of like realistic about what should have happened. Anyway, there are a couple of times where I would say the acting is a little kind of hokey. And I'll point to one instance which I think encapsulates this. There's an instance where the only girl in the group starts to cry. And it's not particularly done very well. And the guy's like, oh, trying to comfort her. It's quite poorly done. Now the acting, I would say, is actually fairly okay for the majority of the time. It's just 1 or 2 instances, and that being specifically one that I remember, where you're thinking, oh, that didn't really sell me on that particular kind of sequence. And we also have the old adage that it's the problem with found footage movies is about why are people still kind of filming. We get that they're meant to making a kind of web show, so we can understand this setup. But there are sequences where they're being chased. There's sequences like this, that same sequence with the girls crying, where why is the guy kind of filming this? Again, a simple thing would be for them, because one of the group is killed. I won't say who, and then they'll say, well, we need to keep videoing because we need to sort of prove that it wasn't us. That's, again, it's a simple thing to kind of say as a piece of dialogue, to kind of like to have that excuse where we can't. Someone's dead. We need to prove to the police it's not us. Again, 5 writers, and that's kind of simplest of kind of thing is just kind of like brushed over. And then the creature itself. I like the fact that we have a creature which is a little different, but when it comes down to it, it looks like a woman on stilts with a wig on, with a bit of makeup. So, then there's sequences, for example, where some characters are holed up. Not once do they try and get a weapon. There's a sequence where there's a hammer on a table. No one picks it up. I mean, it's not as if at that point they're holed up. They're not kind of running there. They have time to kind of like process rational thoughts. But no one thinks about picking up any type of weapon, a large stick or anything like that. Nope. So it's a very, very typical kind of found footage movie. But there are elements here that I feel are just overlooked. So with that in mind, I'll have to give this one a below average mark because, otherwise it will just be a standard found footage movie. But there are elements here that I feel in the writing, and I'll remind you again, 5 writers, that just seem incredibly dumb to me. So it's a 4 out of 10. It's a very nondescript kind of like found footage movie. But if you like that kind of found footage style of movies, then you're not going to hate it. It doesn't ever go into terrible, really. It just goes into kind of very vanilla, and maybe slightly melted vanilla for that matter. But then again, it's 4 out of 10. Have you seen it? What did you think? Leave me a comment, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.